Have we got everybody sitting? You've got everybody
You've
here.
got all the main people here. You've got the ministers, you've got the member in charge, you've got the spokesperson, so you can start on the region.
Order. Clive Jones to move the motion, please.
Thank you very much, Miss Hobhouse, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairship. I beg to move that the House has considered the impact of NHS workforce levels on cancer patients. I declare an interest as a Governor of the Royal Berkshire Hospital and a family member has shares in a medical company. Cancer diagnosis, treatment and outcomes are important to me, being a cancer survivor. I thank the 136 people who have responded to my survey ahead of this debate and the Chamber engagement team for helping to highlight the real experiences of cancer patients across the country. And also thank all of the organisations who have helped me and my office to prepare for this debate today. Shortfalls in the NHS workforce are no secret. Consultants, nurses, radiologists, oncologists, all are working flat out to deliver care, but are being held back by staff shortages, limited equipment, outdated buildings, and lack of training. This is a legacy of the last Conservative government. The new Labour government must act swiftly to support our NHS workforce and deliver world-class cancer care. I welcome the commitment to a new National Cancer Plan, confirmed on the 4th of February 2025, World Cancer Day, after I called for a National Cancer Plan on the 31st of October last year. It must prioritise early diagnosis and improved treatment. Perhaps it could even be launched on World Cancer Day 2026, which is the 4th of February. According to Lilly UK, only 1/3 of NHS staff believe there are enough people to perform their roles effectively. The Royal College of Radiologists, RCR, reports a 29% shortfall in radiologists, 1,670 consultants, set to rise to 39%, 3,112 consultants in 5 years. An extra 346 radiologists are needed now to clear the diagnostic backlog, 9% of the current workforce. The Royal College of Pathologists found that 60% of consultants said their departments lack adequate resources, including staff. Clinical oncology faces a 15% shortfall, forecast to reach 19% by 2029, with smaller cancer centres suffering 6 times higher vacancy rates than larger ones. In genomics, only 60% of tests are delivered on time, mainly due to a lack of shortage of pathologists. In 2022, NHS England reported a 12% mammographer vacancy, rising to 15% in the Midlands and the South East, and 36% of the workforce are due to retire within the next 10 to 15 years. Mike Richards' 2020 review found histopathology activity increased 30% between 2018 and 19, while consultant numbers rose just 8%. The gap continues to widen. The UK also has among the lowest numbers of MRI, CT and PET scanners per million of population among comparable nations. 10 CT scanners per million, 8.6 MRI units, 0.5 PET scanners. Even when equipment exists, staff shortages mean it often isn't used. One survey respondent arrived for his CT scan to find no staff available to operate the machine. In August 2025, only 69% of patients began treatment within 62 days of urgent referral, far below the 85% target, which hasn't been met since December 2015. Not the fault of this government, the fault of the last government. But this government needs to make some improvements. Early diagnosis is key to survival, yet 73% of hospitals are failing to meet the 62-day target. Between January and July 2025, only 66.7% of breast cancer patients began treatment within 62 days of referral. If the 85% target had been met each month, 2,931 people would have started treatment on time. This is data that is given to me by Breast Cancer Now. Even under Labour, we're continuing to struggle. They're not making enough of a difference yet. But I must say again, the problem that we have in the NHS is 14 years of the Conservative government. Best practice recommends a triple assessment, clinical exam, imaging and biopsy in a single appointment. Yet between 2020 and 2022, only 68% received this due to staff shortages. Failure to streamline diagnosis creates delays and backlogs. For bowel cancer, nearly everyone diagnosed early survives 5 years, but only 1 in 10 survive if diagnosed late. Still, just 38% of patients in England are diagnosed at stage 1 and 2. One respondent shared how her daughter, diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer, waited months to start treatment. Delays caused by workforce issues. In July 2025, only 50% of lower gastrointestinal cancer patients were treated within 62 days of referral, although 93% began treatment within 31 days of a decision to treat, showing delays occur early in the diagnostic process. At the same time, 91,400 people were waiting for a colonoscopy or a sigmoidoscopy, 28% for over 6 weeks and 13% for more than 13 weeks. The government must increase endoscopy and pathology capacity, which requires improving staffing levels. Less survivable cancers, lung, liver, brain, esophageal, pancreatic and stomach, are most affected by workforce shortages. Only 35% of pancreatic cancer patients receive treatment within 62 days. Less survivable cancers account for 20% of cases, but cause 42% of cancer deaths, with a 5-year survival rate of just 16%, compared to 55% in more survivable cancers. A new national cancer plan must include a strategy specifically for less survivable cancers. Between 2015 and 2023, 1 in 4 leukemia patients faced avoidable diagnostic delays. A Leukemia UK survey found that insufficient phlebotomy capacity was the top reason for delays in basic full blood count tests, a simple, inexpensive diagnostic tool. For acute myeloid leukemia patients with avoidable delays were 22% more likely to die within a year of diagnosis. The government should audit and invest in phlebotomy services, as called for by Leukemia UK and the Royal College of GP. And the government also needs to establish a national register of available phlebotomy sites. Cancer remains a leading cause of death from disease in teenagers and young adults, yet it is too often missed. 46.3% of 16 to 24-year-olds saw a GP 3 or 4 more times before diagnosis, according to the Teenage Cancer Trust. This diagnosis delay is exacerbated by a nationwide decline of GPs, meaning lower weights and reduced access to diagnostic services. The National Cancer Plan and Workforce Plan must ensure all frontline healthcare professionals, from GPs to A&E staff and opticians, are trained to recognise cancer symptoms in young people. Services need support in deprived areas too. These communities face heavier workloads, more pressure and less funding. The government must provide targeted support for these areas. 43% of brain tumour patients saw a healthcare professional 3 or more times before diagnosis, and 55% of parents said their child's tumour was misdiagnosed. In 2020, 45% of brain tumours were diagnosed in emergency settings, double the 22.5 for all cancers. According to the Brain Tumour Charity, shortages in neuroradiologists and imaging access alongside GP training gaps cause these delays. GPs should be allowed to directly request neuroimaging for concerning symptoms. For prostate cancer, in July 2025, only 55% of men began treatment within 62 days, a 5% drop since January. Even this year, we are still heading in the wrong direction. Men are waiting weeks or months for MRI scans and biopsy results due to staff shortages. England also has one of the lowest numbers of radiologists per head of population in Europe, a situation that really needs to be rectified. Clinical nurse specialists are essential to patient support, yet in 2024, 31% of blood cancer patients didn't know who their clinical nurse specialist was, and 22% didn't know how to contact them. That information is from Blood Cancer UK. Among secondary breast cancer patients in 2019, 25% didn't see a CNS since diagnosis, and only 65% said their CNS had sufficient time for them. For leukemia, just 9% were offered a holistic needs assessment, which CNSs help to deliver. The National Cancer Plan must ensure every patient has access to a CNS. But instability is worsening. The Royal College of Radiologists 2024 census found colorectal oncology has the highest locum reliance, 13%. And 1 in 5 colorectal consultants will retire within the next 5 years. How are we going to replace these healthcare professionals? The British Association of Urological Surgeons reports 12% of consultant roles are unfilled, with growing reliance on costly locums. In haematology, the East Midlands has twice as many vacancies as filled clinical scientist role, with 32% of haematology clinicians planning to reduce their working hours. Again, the Royal College of Radiologists report that the median age of radiologists leaving fell from 56 in 2021 to 49 in 2024, and for clinical oncologists from 59 to 54 in 1 year. Around 20% of clinical oncology consultants will retire in the next 5 years. The NHS is losing staff faster than it can replace them. What is the government going to do to replace these doctors before they retire? People with less survivable cancers often have rapid disease progression and experience severe symptoms. Around 70% of pancreatic cancer patients receive no active treatment. Many are too unwell or diagnosed too late. Specialist symptom management and supportive care must be expanded to reduce emergency admissions and improve quality of life. Yet the NHS cannot currently deliver this. Less survivable cancers must have their own section in the National Cancer Plan. Advanced treatments like CAR T cell therapy for leukemia aren't available everywhere due to lack of trained staff and infrastructure. As a result, a postcode lottery for life-saving treatment. The government must invest in training, especially in primary care, increase specialist training places in radiology and oncology. This is being called for by the Royal College of Radiologists. The government must also end recruitment freezes. On research, only 12% of brain tumour patients have taken part in a clinical trial. 42% say they were never informed about opportunities to be part of a trial. Investment is needed in research, nurses, radiographers and infrastructure, and in embedding research into routine care and protecting staff time to deliver trials. The Royal College of Radiologists is clear. Delays caused by staffing gaps are endangering patients. Without investment, waiting times will lengthen, treatment delays will worsen, and costs will rise. I hope that it is clear to all of us that workforce shortfalls are a massive barrier to early diagnosis and effective timely treatment across all cancers. The government must increase recruitment, training and retention, support primary care referrals, invest in diagnostic infrastructure and education, guarantee access to clinical nurse specialists and prioritise support for patients with less survivable cancers. These steps must underpin the National Cancer Plan and 10-year Workforce Plan. Lives depend upon it. Thank you.
Thank you. May I remind members that they should bob if they wish to speak in this debate. This debate will run till about 3:10, and I'm intending to call the Liberal Democrat spokesperson at 2:38. I call Dr. Scott. Oh, the question is that this House has considered the impact of NHS workforce levels on cancer patients. I call Dr. Scott.
Thank you, Ms Hobhouse. You won't be surprised to hear that it's a pleasure to serve under you today. And I do also have to thank the member for Wokingham for bringing this debate, and it is a really important subject. I will start by declaring an interest. My lovely wife has actually worked as part of the NHS workforce in Scotland for around 30 years now, and on Monday she's due to start a one-year secondment to the Marie Curie Hospice in Edinburgh, so I will take this opportunity to wish her well. And it's also a good opportunity, since it looks like I've got a little bit more time than expected, it's also an opportunity for me to thank all the people in Edinburgh South West who do raise money for that hospice, including Bobcat Alpacas, who recently raised around £10,000 at their open day. And also this morning I met with Macmillan Cancer Support. I'm sure others here did so as well, so I do want to recognise all their efforts right across the UK in supporting people facing a diagnosis, and also groups in my constituency like the House of Hope, who support people with breast cancer diagnosis. But I think we do have to recognise that the pressure that NHS staff are under, not just my lovely wife, but staff right across the NHS in the UK, but I will start talking about England, of course. And it's that pressure for those staff who are supporting cancer patients in the NHS, which is why I absolutely welcome the forthcoming workforce plan and also the National Cancer Strategy. And I hope these can make a real difference to staff and cancer patients in England. And I'm proud it's the Labour government that's showing real ambition, and I think that ambition word is really important on this. But I do support Cancer Research UK's ask for a dedicated cancer workforce planning strategy. And I agree with Leukemia UK when they say the 10-year workforce plan must enable and support the delivery of the National Cancer Plan. I'm sure that's not a controversial view at all. It makes absolute sense. So I've been really lucky in that I've been able to table a private member's bill on rare cancers, and through that I've met many cancer charities. And I have to say, all of them actually respect the work of the member for Wokingham. I'm trying to find one that doesn't, but they all absolutely do. And I recently met with Blood Cancer UK to talk about their work, and it was them that informed me about this debate, actually. But they asked me to raise the situation in haematology in England as being particularly concerning. Blood cancer accounts for a third of cancer deaths in the UK, but they say treatment is continuously impacted by staffing shortages. They told me how one patient shared that in the last 5 years they had 7 different consultants, and they were terrified about not knowing who to contact if their symptoms got worse. So not a great situation for that person. Figures from Blood Cancer UK show that in the south east of England, the vacancies for advanced haematologist nurse practitioner roles are 111% greater than those in posts. So there's more vacancies than there is people in post. So that is impacting both on patients and for the staff who are on post. It must be in post. It must be incredibly stressful for them. So I do hope that the upcoming workforce plan, in it, the government recognises the central role haematologists play in cancer care. And we have to recognise that having a haematology workforce which is staffed to the correct level has benefits well beyond cancer care. And I do hope the government will put in place measures to address these shortfalls. And I think, as I think the member for Wokingham touched on, I think steps to drive up recruitment and retention of clinical nurses will be crucial. And Chair, I will now speak a little about Scotland, where health has devolved, of course. Back in August, I welcomed the news that the risk of dying from cancer in Scotland has reached a record low. And I think that's a fantastic landmark. However, that data only covered us up to 2022. In 2025, we know that cancer waiting times in Scotland have never been worse. The Royal College of Radiologists have indicated that without addressing staffing, the situation is only going to get even worse. And that, right now, that seems unthinkable. Data shows that there's a 25% shortage of radiologists. Again, I think a discipline which has benefits well beyond just cancer care, and a 19% shortage in oncologists. Looking again at haematologists in Scotland, 1 in 5 consultants are nearing retirement, and there's currently low recruitment into that sector, so patient groups are very concerned about what that means for the future. The Scottish Government, of course, says it's investing in cancer treatment, yet patients are being failed and left without effective care. That's the reality when you look beyond press releases. And you don't have to just take my word for it, Chair. Dr Ian Kennedy, who chairs the British Medical Association in Scotland, said that Scotland is now divided. It's split between people who can afford to go private and those forced to languish, that was his word, on NHS waiting lists. So often we think about people going private for cosmetic works or perhaps even a hip surgery, but going private for cancer care, that is a real inequality if that is what's happening in Scotland or anywhere, actually. Indeed, cancer mortality rates for the poorest in Scotland are 78% higher than the richest, which should shame me. It shames me as a Scot reporting that, although I do want change. So the Scottish Government is failing to address the very low staffing levels that feed these issues. Currently, there is no workforce plan. The UK Government is currently looking at one, but there's none in Scotland. They actually had one. It expired in March this year, and I checked it this morning. It did not even mention cancer care. So perhaps that's why we've got the worst cancer waiting times on record when we had a workforce plan that did not even reference cancer. So whilst the UK Government is taking action through the workforce plan, and I look forward to hearing more about it from the Minister in the summing up, the situation in Scotland, I'm afraid, looks like it can only get worse. And I do hope that we'll have an election next year in Scotland for the Holyrood Parliament. And I do hope that cancer care is a key part of the discussion we're having, because it is a real crisis in Scotland and the country really needs change. Our NHS needs change. Thank you, Chair.
Chairmanship, and I congratulate the Honourable Member for Wokingham on securing this important debate. It's unusual to be called so quickly in these debates, and we're often oversubscribed, so it's a pleasure to be able to actually say something a little bit more substantive than perhaps I'd initially prepared. Specifically, I want to talk about the impact on the workforce in my area of Harrogate and Knaresborough, but also across the Yorkshire and Humber region. What concerns me is we need a strong and sustainable NHS workforce, as that's critical to improving cancer outcomes. This comes at a time of rising demand, and the number of people in Yorkshire receiving urgent checks for cancer has doubled in the past 10 years and is projected to keep on rising. Cancer services in our region are consistently failing to meet the national targets. Actions needed desperately to make the NHS a more attractive and sustainable career choice, and this includes investing in training, improving retention, and also prioritising staff wellbeing. One of the biggest frustrations I have from local staff at our hospital is about the inability for them to find even a place to park at work and the impact that has on the surrounding area. I welcome the forthcoming workforce plan, and I know a number of organisations, including Yorkshire Cancer Research, will be keen to submit evidence to ensure the needs of cancer patients in our region are fully addressed. What is needed is to make sure that staffing levels are delivered and the support for growing demand is not left behind. There are a number of gaps in the workforce across my patch. We know that Yorkshire has the lowest rate of clinical and medical oncology consultants of any region in the country, at 5.1 per 100,000 people aged 50 and above, compared to 6.6 nationally and 11.3 in London. There's a regional shortfall of clinical oncology consultants at 18%, higher than the national average of 15%. And as has been mentioned already, services and support staff such as clinical radiologists, we're also experiencing shortfalls and shortages in that sector too. And there's a considerable concern with 79% of clinical directors across Yorkshire and Humber saying that there are insufficient radiologists to deliver safe and effective care, the highest proportion in England. The current shortfall is 33% and projected to rise to 41% by 2029, placing Yorkshire among the worst affected regions. Additionally, we are also experiencing a particular complexity of an ageing workforce. We know that Yorkshire and the Humber have the highest joint proportion of clinical radiologist consultants expected to retire over the next 5 years, higher than the rest of England at 22% compared to 20%, and a lower than average forecasted growth in that particular role. When I speak to local people, some of the barriers that they have and face when it comes to accessing cancer pathways is at the point of general practice. It's often GPs where these meetings and difficult conversations occur, and making timely access is crucial. Yet we have a significant variation in GP availability across the country and across even Yorkshire. For example, in Kingston upon Hull East, each GP services 3,664 patients, which is more than double the number that Sheffield South East have. And we know that with 1 in 2 cancers diagnosed late, improving access to GPs is vital for early detection and therefore for better outcomes. There's been a number of emails in my inbox too around concerns of people who are completing their training in the NHS as GPs and doctors, and the availability of them to be able to find work going on as well. And that's something that I hope the Minister might be able to address, and the workforce plan going forward too. We also know that research-active hospitals deliver better survival outcomes, even for patients who are not directly involved in trials. For example, bowel cancer patients treated in NHS hospital trusts with high levels of research participation had improved survival outcomes in the first year after diagnosis. What worries me is across Yorkshire, we saw a 25% decline in clinical academic posts between 2012 and 2022, which again was 4 times higher than the national decline. I think it's also important when we talk about NHS workforce and the impact that it has on cancer to acknowledge that there's often the charity sector which supplements the work that our NHS do too. In my constituency, we have Harrogate Hospital and Community Charity, who this year are celebrating their 30th anniversary and birthday for what they do locally in our area. And I was pleased to have run the Paris and London marathons raising money for them earlier this year. They're a fantastic organisation who do amazing work on the ground, going above and beyond what the NHS can provide for people with a range of, range of health issues. Last year, I was able to attend a Macmillan Coffee Morning at the Sir Robert Ogden Macmillan Centre, and today I attend the Macmillan Coffee Morning here in Parliament. Locally, the provision that we have is, broadly speaking, the feedback that I hear from anyone who's accessing cancer facilities and services in my patches is fantastic. And one such constituent, John Fox, who has recently been going through those services, described them as an amazing team, that they were so supportive, caring and helpful. And I think it's important, whilst we talk about some of the issues that we're facing, we also highlight some of the positives and good experiences that people have too. So, in summary, I think going forward, what I would like to see, and what I hope the Minister might be able to comment on, is how we will better invest in training and recruitment and the retention of staff in the NHS, and how we'll address those regional inequalities and support research capacity. Thank you.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and a real pleasure as always to serve under your chairship. And can I thank the Honourable Member for Wokingham for raising the matter which affects constituents in every part of this United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I always admire the Honourable Gentleman because of his personal experiences that he tells about cancer, and I've heard them from himself individually on a personal basis, but I've also heard him say that here in the chamber. His heart is for those with cancer, those who suffer and those who need to find a cure. So can I congratulate him and all he does. Macmillan coffee morning was this morning. The honourable gentleman who spoke about from Hargate and just mentioned it there beforehand. They had put forward some recommendations, and just wondering, has the Minister had a chance perhaps to have contact with the Macmillan Cancer Group? They had the recommendations there this morning. They're always helpful. They're not here to catch anybody out there. They're putting forward positive ideas how to do it better. So and maybe the Minister could indicate whether or not that opportunity has been brought forward. In this life, Madam Chair, there are not many things that I say I can hate, and when I use that word, I mean it, but I do hate cancer. I hate the devastating effect that it has on people and families. I hate that children suffer and that their parents can only stand by and watch. It happens on many occasions. I hate that children are left motherless or fatherless and nothing can be done. And I hate everything to do with that dreadful disease. But most of all, I hate that we can't cure it, at least not yet. And I suppose one of my requests to the Minister, who is always incredibly helpful, is in relation to research and development. 1 in 2 people that we meet in this room, half of the people in this room will potentially, as a statistic, will have cancer. 50% will survive, 50% won't. So the day we find the cure, and I know the research and development is so important. I know the Minister is committed to that, but perhaps we could get some idea what's been done in relation to it. Each of us in this place will have been touched by cancer, and I think of my own dad. My dad, he's been dead now for 10 years, but my dad was a cancer survivor, Madam Chair, on 3 occasions. Each one of those occasions, and he puts it down, as I would, of course, as well, to the skill of the surgeon, the care of the nurses and the prayers of God's people to help him get out the other side. We can argue, of course, about microwaves, and we can consider preservatives in food, about the many of they are carcinogenic or genic factors. But this debate is about ensuring that our NHS workforce levels enable every sufferer to have the best chance possible to fight it. And currently, I don't believe, as the honourable gentleman who introduced this debate and others who have spoken, I don't think it's just there yet. Insufficient NHS workforce levels in Northern Ireland, and that's not the Minister's responsibility, but I try to give a flavour of the debate, because it's not any different. What happens in Northern Ireland happens in England and Wales and Scotland. Through cancer patients, through delayed diagnosis and treatments, leading to potentially life-threatening consequences, increased anxiety. And the anxiety from your health is the first thing, and then you're anxious about how do you pay the bills, and do I get benefit? Can I get some help to get me? Can I get my mortgage extended? These are really life-altering circumstances that people have to face up to, and the unmet support as well. Then we have the shortages in key roles like the specialist nurses, like the radiologists. The surgeons mean that treatment targets are frequently missed, unfortunately, and patients do not receive the full support they require during and after treatment. The situation is worsened by growing waiting lists, increased workloads for existing staff, and a lack of resources for both acute and community-based care. Honourable gentleman from Wokingham, when he introduced it, he spoke about pancreatic cancer. There are many cancers that are devastating, but the pancreatic cancer, I think, is incredibly one of the worst. We just had, Madam Chair, in the last 10 days, a young lady from Grey Abbey, in the village just close to where I live, 31 years of age, with a 5-year-old son and a partner, and she died with pancreatic cancer. I remember others who, when the pancreatic cancer comes, as soon as you get the diagnosis or you're told you have it, it's too late, because it's already taken effect, and your body is already succumbing to that terrible cancer. That's why I go back to research and development. Can we find someday, hopefully, the cure for pancreatic cancer? Can we, will we be able to diagnose at an earlier stage, where then we can hopefully give the treatment and the help that is needed? The target of starting treatment within 62 days of an urgent... I'm very happy to, of course, yes.
I do think I've given way, and I know this is an important subject for him. On pancreatic cancer, there's a fantastic charity in the UK, of course, called Pancreatic Cancer UK. And I know, unfortunately, he couldn't make the Labour Party conference in Liverpool this year. He's always welcome to attend, of course. And Labour MPs get to go for free, so if you want to join up and get a free access to the conference, you're very welcome. But pancreatic cancer UK were at the conference with some scientists who were looking at a new diagnostic tool, which, believe it or not, was based on a breath test. Some small particle in your breath, they were able to take it away and analyse it and give you an indication that there could be something that needed further investigation. A great example of how, as a country, if we invest in this, it brings jobs to the UK, of course, but it can also help save lives. So I'm sure you'll congratulate Pancreatic Cancer UK for all their work in this field and that particular little piece of progress.
Yeah, I welcome that intervention because it actually gives you encouragement. I think that's what it's all about. Of course, I attend my own party conference. I'm not sure if I attend anybody else's, but I know the good work that something about party conferences. It gives you a great opportunity to meet some of the groups that are working hard. And we have them coming to our conference as others have. So that is encouraging. And maybe that's part of the next stage for cancer cure and pancreatic cancer in particular. And I thank him for that. I referred to the target of starting treatment within 62 days of an urgent GP referral as not being met, with only 37% of patients receiving treatment within the critical window and those figures of 2023. Some 545,000 people in Northern Ireland were waiting for elective care, almost 500,000 as of September 2023, of a population of 1.95 million. My goodness, is that not scary figures? Not the Minister's responsibility, but it really worries me when I consider that. The highest number in record, which includes the cancer patients as well. Waiting times for inpatient admissions and outpatient appointments have increased dramatically since 2020. Shortages exist across multiple disciplines, including the paediatricians, administrative support, pathologists, radiologists, chemotherapy nurses, and palliative care staff. For example, where the number of clinical radiologists has increased, and that's good news, the Royal College of Radiologists estimates that the workforce is still 15% smaller than what is needed to meet the demand. So advances, yes, but not just there quite yet. Existing staff face extreme workload pressures, leading to a fear of missing early diagnosis and also burnout from those who give a commitment above and beyond what their wage packet indicates that they should do, because they feel committed to what they try to do to help their patients. So we're not coping well. And when it takes a constituent to come to my office and ask why her first smear test results took 16 weeks to come back, and to get these results, she had to ring her GP on 3 occasions, and I had to, on her behalf, email the doctor's surgery and also the health trust. So the result that she needed, the biopsies were then taken, and her anxiety level is absolutely through the roof, and you can only understand that. And she now has to wait a further 6 to 8 weeks for the results to see if she needs treatment. My goodness, it's not about wonder that people are worried, and their anxiety levels, their pressure levels, and all the other problems are at the highest they've ever been. The fact is that the impact of the weight affects mental health of even the young and the fit. And if we are to give people the tools to battle their health fight, and we need to, it begins with efficient diagnosis and also treatment. So we're not getting it right, that's a fact, but we couldn't do better. And constituents believe they are losing the battle before it truly even begins. So what do we need to do? We need to bring our workforce up to the par, and that has to be done by ensuring that money spent in the NHS is spent appropriately and not, to use an Ulster Scot word, frittered away. So could I make a plea for more research, as I've done to the Honourable Lady and the Minister in particular? I really do believe that what we spend in research will be for the future, for finding all the cures. I mean, if I go back a few years, and I go back further than most, when only 1 in 3 people survive cancer. Now it's 1 in 2. So that's an advance. The day's coming perhaps whenever everyone can come to that place. And I think of Queen's University in Belfast as one example. Their partnerships with some of the medical companies to find cures is incredible. And the cures that they found in Queen's University in Belfast in their and their research are some of the best in the whole of the United Kingdom, if not in this world. Our NHS staff are second. I conclude with this, Madam Chair. Our NHS staff are second to none, but at times it seems they are working with one hand tied behind their back, and this, I believe, must cease. We must ensure we have sufficient funding to free them to do the job and fight cancer throughout this great United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Always better together. Thank you.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Helen Morgan.
Thank you very much, Ms Hobhouse. It's a pleasure serving under your chairship. And I'd also like to thank my honourable friend and colleague, the member for Wokingham, for securing this important debate, highlighting the issue of staff shortages and the impact that that has on cancer patients and the outcomes that they achieve. Now, cancer should be a top priority for any government, and the UK, with its historically thriving life sciences sector, could and should be a global leader in cancer research and outcomes. And sadly, at the moment, that isn't necessarily the case. The last Conservative government broke its promise on a 10-year cancer plan that would have made a real difference to patients. And we must put an end to the tragedy of people losing their lives because cancer treatment took too long to start. No one should be unable to receive treatment because there isn't enough equipment or sufficient staff to properly support them. It's a scandal that so many people live in treatment deserts and are forced to take incredibly long journeys for treatment, often after weeks of waiting for that treatment to begin. So in that context, the introduction of a national cancer strategy is incredibly welcome. It should help to boost cancer survival rates. And I'm very proud that my honourable friend, the member for Wokingham, and as we've heard, the widely respected cancer campaigner, has helped to secure a commitment from the government to introduce such a plan. It's really important that when this plan comes, it is meaningful. The government should take bold action, ensuring every patient starts treatment for cancer within 62 days of their urgent referral, recruiting the cancer specialists we need, replacing ancient machines and delivering new ones, because on the ground, at the moment, the situation is not very good. Taking my own local area as an example, my constituents in North Shropshire have had to deal with some of the worst backlogs in performance in England for years. One constituent told me that they waited almost a year before their treatment began, and that's simply not okay. If we look at that target of 62 days of treatment starting from urgent referral, Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital Trust only achieved 68.8% for the month of August this year, compared to the target of 85%. And that is a significant improvement on their previous situation, with performance against that target improving by more than 15.4% over the past year. Now, this progress is obviously welcome. I'm optimistic it will be sustained, and I commend and thank the tireless work of staff across the Trust in driving these improvements. Staffing levels, especially for radiologists for diagnostic scans, have been a large part of the problem in Shrewsbury and Telford. Outsourcing the interpretation of these scans has led to a dramatic improvement in the speed at which the results come back, demonstrating the importance of having enough skilled staff in speedy diagnostics that can help with early treatment commencing. This issue is particularly severe in rural areas, and one that I hope that the workforce plan that will go with the cancer strategy will address. Now, BMJ Group research found that every 4-week delay to starting cancer treatment is associated with a 10% decrease in cancer survival. Constituents like mine who have had horrendous waits for treatment are bearing the lethal brunt of delays. NHS workforce statistics show that between June 2020 and June 2025, the number of full-time equivalent cancer specialists has risen by 32% for clinical oncologists, 48% for medical oncologists, and 27% for the clinical radiology workforce, and clearly this is a welcome statistic. However, analysis from the Royal College of Radiologists argues that this increase in workforce capacity has not kept pace with the ever-growing demand for cancer services, which is inevitable in an ageing population with poor health. In 2024, the Royal College of Radiologists estimated that the clinical oncology workforce was around 15% smaller than required to meet demand, and projected that this shortfall would rise to 19% by 2029. It also reported that among the 50 cancer centres surveyed in England in 2024, 76% of heads there expressed concerns about patient safety due to workforce shortages. We also can't ignore the reality of working conditions in our NHS and the impact that that might have on staff retention. The previous Conservative government left our NHS under unbearable strain, with professionals working under intense pressure in crumbling hospitals and often without the resources they needed, rather than in safe clinical settings. This doesn't help retention of a highly skilled and experienced workforce. There are also woeful shortages of specialist training places, meaning we don't have the cancer specialists we need. At the same time, there's rising doctor unemployment, despite growing need for their services. It's a damning indictment of the Conservatives' mismanagement and failure to plan the workforce. A workforce plan for the NHS, including a workforce plan to support the cancer strategy, is imperative, and it must address the issues with retention and career progression for doctors, nurses and other skilled staff across all specialisms. Whilst routine NHS workforce publication figures aren't available for nurses working in cancer specialties, a nursing fill rate dataset obtained by Fact Check for Channel 4 News reported that a third of acute trusts in England were missing at least 10% of their planned nurses across haematology and oncology wards, based on monthly average data between January 23 and November 24. That's why we're pressing for more cancer nurses so that every patient has a dedicated specialist nurse supporting them throughout their treatment, and for expanded community nursing. Liberal Democrats are also campaigning for the UK to lead the world in cancer research, with new funding and waiving burdensome fees and bureaucracy for international researchers. We'd set up a dedicated fellowship scheme for US cancer scientists who've seen their funding gutted by President Trump. I'm just conscious of time. Without, for example, sufficient radiographers, specialist nurses and diagnostic equipment, even the most promising screening initiatives that we introduce here risk being delayed or underutilised. The government needs to commit to the funding of early screening programmes and training and retaining the workforce required to deliver them. A comprehensive, well-supported rollout would allow thousands of people at risk to be diagnosed at a much earlier stage when treatment is far more effective and survival rates are significantly higher. The National Cancer Plan provides a huge opportunity for the government to turn cancer care around in this country, delivering world-class care for every community. I look forward to seeing the plan, ensuring that it's deliverable with an associated workforce plan at the soonest opportunity. Thank you.
Madam Minister, Dr. Caroline Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship this afternoon. And I'd like to congratulate the Honourable Gentleman for Wokingham for securing this debate this afternoon too. Across the United Kingdom, an estimated 3.5 million people are living with cancer. We all know a friend, a family member or a co-worker who has battled the disease. And sadly, we also all know of somebody who has died and life was cut short by it. Our country is faced with an ageing population. This will mean more cancer cases in the year to come, as the longer we live, the greater the risk. But troublingly, Madam Chair, we're also witnessing cancer rates arise amongst those in their 20s, 30s and 40s. So getting cancer care right today will mean the difference between lives saved and lives lost tomorrow. We know that the NHS cannot deliver timely, effective cancer care without the workforce trained to provide it. And we owe it to patients fighting cancer today and the 50% of us that will face cancer tomorrow to fix it. NHS staff are carrying out more cancer checks than ever before, over 3 million a year in 2024, compared to less than half that a decade ago. In the last 5 years, we've also benefited from an increase in the number of clinical and medical oncologists in the NHS, as well as a growth in clinical radiology staff. But demand for services is sadly fast outpacing the supply of staff, putting teams under immense pressure. Last year, over 74,000 people in England were not treated on time for cancer, which increases their risk from the disease. Madam Chair, formal training for medical staff begins at university. The previous government increased the number of places at medical school, and it increased the number of medical schools by building 5 new ones. This government have said they will increase the number of medical school places. Could the Minister confirm the places that they will fund for next September, bearing in mind that the application date has now passed? The next step of postgraduate training faces challenges too. The previous government, as I said, increased medical school places. It also removed the resident labour force market test because of the shortage of doctors. The Secretary of State did appear to understand back in Easter the effect that was going to start to have as those newly trained doctors came through into postgraduate training numbers. And over the last 2 years, we've seen the number of international medical graduates applying for those training posts also increase dramatically. This means that the application ratios for the postgraduate training posts has gone up substantially and risks both that some junior doctors will not get a job, but it also risks that those international medical graduates that are getting more of the places will return to their country of origin after they've completed the training. So we'll have unemployed British trainees, and we will have doctors that return after training, leaving us with a shortage of consultants in a few years' time. This has been highlighted by the British Medical Association, which I should declare I'm a member of. And I understand that, very sadly, that they've announced that they will go on strike from the 14th to the 19th of November this year, partly as a result of pay and partly as a result of this. And the Secretary of State previously was very vociferous in his criticisms of the past government when doctors went on strike. So what is he going to do? What is the Minister going to do to get the doctors back to work? Because cancer treatment requires surgery, oncology, haematology, radiology, pathology, geneticist, every specialty across the NHS, including, sadly, Madam Chair, paediatrics and indeed sometimes even neonatologists. We also have challenges across the nursing sector, and we saw nurses this year coming out of nursing college with the qualifications, but without the posts to go to. And of course, there's also a need for other allied health professionals, pharmacists, radiologists, laboratory staff, mammographers, research assistants. Will the workforce plan reflect this? When will it be published? Will it make projections about the population and the population with cancer? And will the government publish these too? The government committed to more MRIs and CT scanners. How many new ones has it got in place? How well is it progressing with its targets? We've heard about the importance of research today. Scientists are a key part of our cancer workforce. We heard yesterday in the Chamber the challenges the sciences sector is facing. We've had a $1 billion investment from Merck for King's Cross. It's been shelved. Over £200 million investment from AstraZeneca in Speke near Liverpool, also shelved. And other investments are paused or mothballed. The industry is talking about this poor government engagement, the employment regulations, the increased employment taxes such as national insurance, and the increase in the VPAG rate. What is the government going to do to ensure that we have research in this country? Because research is a real success. We have the best scientists in the world. We have cutting-edge treatment, trial drugs, novel approaches, and these are all more accessible earlier if they're done in the UK. They also provide good jobs to the British workforce. What work is the Minister doing with the DSIT team? What representation is she making to the Treasury to ensure that supporting research is part of the government's actions as well as messaging? Will the supporting research be part of the cancer plan? What support is the Minister giving to rare cancers, particularly those that are particularly lethal, such as pancreatic cancer? What about those like brain tumours where survival has shown little or no improvement? What focus will the cancer plan have on those? The rare cancers in particular, and I was part of the Rare Cancer Bill Team 2, have also pointed out that the rare disease framework, 1 in 17 of us will get a rare disease during a lifetime. The current programme initiator framework, initiated by the last government, runs out in around 3 months' time. Does the government plan to replace it? And if it does, what with and when? Sadly, as I said earlier, children, teenagers, young people also get cancer, and they have particular needs as they go through puberty and childhood and young adulthood, and the workforce therefore have particular strengths that they have to establish because of the work, the people they're looking after. And I'd like to commend the work of the Teenage Cancer Trust and my right honourable friend, the member for Gosport, and the work that she's doing on this. But can the Minister confirm that teenage and young people's cancer and children's cancer will form an important part of the cancer plan? Computer scientists will also be key to the cancer workforce. We've heard about the importance of AI. Computers can also already identify skin cancer from benign lesions in many cases. The Health Select Committee in the last Parliament I was part of visited Stanford in California, where we saw how AI was being used to look at mammograms, and how rather than using 2 doctors, they used 1 doctor and an AI computer, and that was better than either 2 computers or 2 clinicians. So what is the Minister doing to ensure that right from early education in schools we have the right skills being developed to develop the right workforce for the AI of the future? And then, of course, thankfully, because we're getting better at treating cancer, there is life after cancer. But post-cancer care is important too. Some people live with things like lymphedema, amputations, stomas as a result of their cancer treatment. What focus does the Minister expect the workforce plan and the cancer plan to have in these areas? Palliative care is also important for those who cannot be treated successfully and cured by their cancer. Hospices are in crisis, Madam Chair, across the country. The government's given extra money for capital and some for children, which is of course welcome. But hospices across the country are facing huge costs, particularly from national insurance from the last budget. And neither fund will cover that for adult hospices. And so right across the country, we are hearing about adult hospices that are closing beds. What is the Minister going to do about that in her plan? How does she expect House to decide on the assisted suicide bill when palliative care is facing such difficulty? What about the mental health workforce? Because it's important that people are supported through their cancer journey as well. Madam Chair, we had the 10-year health plan, and with that plan came the promise of a workforce plan and the national cancer plan. But across the country, the British people are waiting. They watch a Labour government crafting glossy catalogues of intent, but failing to deliver for our NHS. The time for planning and prevarication is over. I look forward to the Minister's response.
And now call the Minister, Karen Smith.
Thank you, Ms Holdhouse. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship this afternoon. And can I really thank the Honourable Member for Wokingham for bringing the debate to the House today and indeed getting through the debate, if I may say so. I hope he's well. And honourable members for their contributions. And I am, as others have noted, aware of the work that he's personally done using his own experience to good on access to primary care, radiotherapy and cancer, campaigning on behalf of his constituents in Wokingham and, as we heard from an honourable member from Strangford, across the country. And he has been a keen advocate for the importance of the NHS workforce in delivering the health services that we need. Can I also thank and wish well the Honourable Member for Edinburgh South West wife, thank her for her service and wish her well in the new role at the hospice. And can I also say it's really good to have a voice in some of these debates from Scotland, sharing, sadly, those shocking and deeply concerning waiting times that are being experienced by our friends and family in Scotland, and they will have a chance to start reversing that situation next May. I hope it's an opportunity they take, and I look forward to joining him to try and make that happen. I'm sorry I have got my green jacket on, but I couldn't join the Macmillan coffee morning this morning, as highlighted by my friend, the friend member for Strangford. And I know my honourable friend, the member for West Lancashire, is working very closely with Macmillan and many other cancer charities as she develops the cancer plan, and in good contact with them and the great work they do and the many asks that they have of government, and we will make sure that they are, of course, continue to be talked through as she develops the workforce plan. And as many honourable members have said, half of us will have a cancer diagnosis in our lifetime. The health team are certainly taking our full part in that 50%, with 50% of us having a cancer diagnosis and some still undergoing treatment. And although more than 3/4 of all people diagnosed with the cancer in the UK are 60 and over, and the population is ageing, as has also been mentioned, I myself decided to go at 59 to get mine. My honourable friend from West Lancashire is also younger than 60, and the Secretary of State would not forgive me for not reminding everybody that he's, of course, only in his early 40s. And I think we make the point well, as other members have made, that although we will have increasing incidents as a result of an ageing population, that this can strike anybody at any age. And diagnosing and treating cancer is a growing part of NHS elective activity, and responding to this demand in a way that best suits patient is crucial, including the issues that have been raised this afternoon by the member for Wokingham and his friend, the member for Harrogate and Knaresborough, about variability, often within a very small geographical patch, and certainly between different cancer links. And I'd just say that the Honourable Member for Wokingham talked about CNS nurses. I mean, mine were absolutely fantastic, and I did know who they were. And some of the statistics he outlined are deeply concerning, so I think those points are very well made. Our mission to tackle cancer and the other biggest killers is underpinned by the 10-year health plan published earlier this year, focusing on those 3 shifts, from hospital to community, from analogue to digital, and from sickness to prevention. And on the workforce plan, we know we need an effective and sustainable workforce to deliver better outcomes for everyone, including those with cancer. We set out in the 10-year health plan that to deliver a workforce fit for the future, we do need a new sustainable approach to workforce planning. And our 10-year workforce plan will be different. It will set out how we will create a workforce ready to deliver a transformed service for patients when and where they need it, with more empowered staff, more flexible and more fulfilled staff. Now, since we launched our call for evidence on the 26th of September, we have been struck by the huge enthusiasm of staff, the sector, stakeholders and colleagues in sharing their thoughts and ideas with us. And many have expressed that they would like more time to have those conversations, test ideas and work together to deliver a truly reformed service. And I'm really grateful to them for raising that. And that is why, and I can share with honourable members today, that we have made the decision to give more time to that process, and we will now publish the plan in spring of next year, 2026. A spring publication will allow us to have more detailed discussions with partners, honourable members and other stakeholders, not just to listen, but to truly work in a joined-up way to deliver for staff and patients. Now, the Honourable Lady for the Opposition very helpfully outlined all of the decisions that were made by her government over the last few years, decisions that have essentially led to many of the problems that we now have with the workforce and many of those problems that we are trying to resolve, and we will resolve them. And she informed the House that the Resident Doctors Committee have now decided to go on strike again. That is, of course, deeply disappointing, and that will be damaging for the work that we want to do, and we would urge them not to be going ahead with that. But we will continue to be committed to ensuring that the workforce is fit for purpose, including to diagnose and to treat cancer, and we will progress with the work that we have already started. As of July 2025, there were over 5% more staff in the key cancer professions of clinical oncology, gastroenterology, medical oncology, histopathology, clinical radiology, and diagnostic and therapeutic radiography than in July 2024. There are also more doctors working in clinical oncology and more radiology doctors compared to last year. And my friend, the Honourable Member for Edinburgh South West, particularly asked about haematology. The NHS England is invested in expanding specialty training posts in high-demand disciplines, including haematology, and is supporting local systems to retain and develop multidisciplinary teams. That includes increased medical training posts in haematology and enhancing the scientific workforce supply through other sorts of initiatives. We have also ensured that the cancer-facing workforce is put on a more stable footing to ensure it has the stability it needs to continue to provide the care patients need. In 2025, we provided grant funding to the Royal College of Radiologists to encourage foundation and internal medicine trainees to specialise in clinical oncology. This work is currently underway and involves a series of webinars as well as targeted engagement. In 2024-25, around 8,000 people received training to either enter the cancer and diagnostic workforce or develop in their roles. And as part of this, over 1,600 people were on apprenticeship courses, with over 270 additional medical specialty training places funded. Over 1,000 clinical nurse specialist grants were made available to new and aspiring CNS work, and it is a really valuable service that. We will continue.
Thank you, Ms. Speaker. She's generous with her time as ever. She's outlined some of the positive steps that the government is taking in terms of that workforce challenge. I wondered if she might be able to elaborate specifically on some of the points that I made about the inequalities between the North and the South when it comes to NHS and cancer workforce.
I thank him for that. I mean, I don't have that to hand in terms of numbers, but I think, as we outlined in the 10-year health plan, we're particularly exercised with the commitment to people in rural and coastal communities with regard to workforce and indeed access to many other services. If there's anything specific that he's not aware of, I'm happy to furnish him with more information. But as I said, the variability, even within towns and cities, let alone at the country, north, south, east, west, rural and coastal communities is something we are obviously minded to to rectify. We will continue to ensure that ongoing investment in practice education continues to enhance clinical supervision, education and training across cancer and diagnostic workforces, and this will increase placement capacity, support staff retention and contribute to high-quality patient care. We'll not only ensure that the cancer workforce has the numbers to succeed, but also has the skill set to succeed. Training academies in imaging, endoscopy and genomics are all being delivered across regions to provide intensive skills development and support new models of care. We'll also ensure staff have the skills to adopt the treatments needed to treat cancer patients. Adoption of innovative cancer treatments is often clinician-led and self-identified, with doctors seeking out specialist training opportunities themselves. This may include overseas fellowships or short courses, after which skills are cascaded locally through continued professional development, multidisciplinary teams and peer-to-peer learning. The complex challenge of tackling the cancer and workforce issues we face will not be solved with a single solution. That's why in the new year the Department will be publishing a national cancer plan. The plan will have patients at its heart and will cover the entirety of the cancer pathway, from referral and diagnosis to treatment and ongoing care, as well as prevention and research and innovation. The National Cancer Plan will build on the progress of the 10-year health plan to improve survival and reduce the lives lost to the biggest killers. On the 4th of February, we launched a call for evidence for the National Cancer Plan, which closed on the 29th of April. We received over 11,000 responses from individuals, professionals and organisations who have shared their views on how we can do more to achieve our ambition. We've worked with the crucial industry figures in the development of the National Cancer Plan, including the Royal College of Radiologists. These submissions are being used to inform our plan to improve cancer care, and as I said, my friend, the Honourable Member for West Lancashire, is working hard on that issue. Can I thank the Honourable Member for North Shropshire's recognition of the improvements being made at Shrewsbury and Telford, and I know her contribution and other local MPs to supporting that trust. Those are very welcome improvements. And can I also say to honourable members, of course, the research aspect of all of this, the life science sector is critical to this government's growth mission, to making this country the best place to be doing life sciences in. And of course, we are working closely as a department with our colleagues in DCIT, DBT and HMT to make that happen. Finally, through the actions this government is taking on workforce, on cancer capacity and across this country, we will ensure the government has the staff it needs to treat cancer patients safely across the country. And I thank the honourable gentleman for bringing this debate.
Clive Jones to wind up.
Thank you very much, Ms Hobhouse, for giving me some time to sum up, and also Minister for leaving me some time. And I thank my honourable friend for Shropshire North for her contribution and her kind remarks and the kind remarks of other members as well. I also thank all of the honourable members who have contributed so much to today's debate, each having special stories to tell about the areas they represent. All of them are fantastic campaigners for the cancer community. We can all agree with the honourable member for Strangford. We all hate cancer. In fact, I'm sure everybody in this room today hates cancer. I'll make some progress if you don't mind. I must also say a big thank you to all the cancer charities and life science companies who have provided valuable insight into the state of the NHS workforce and its effect on cancer patients. The impact of NHS workforce levels on cancer patients is a serious topic that needs discussing, and the experience of patients needs to be highlighted. Today has raised key demands for the government to address. The government must increase endoscopy and pathology capacity. The government should audit and invest in phlebotomy services, as called for by Leukemia UK and the Royal College of GPs. The government also needs to establish a national register available for phlebotomy sites. The government needs to provide targeted support for the most deprived areas of the country who are under immense pressure. The government needs to replace doctors who they know are likely to be retiring in the next few years. The government must ensure that they up their game on cancer. They have been left a very difficult legacy. No money and no government enthusiasm to change the way that we deal with cancer. And that is a really sad indictment on the previous Conservative government. Finally, the government must increase recruitment, training and retention, support primary care referrals, invest in diagnostic infrastructure and education, guarantee access to clinical nurse specialists and prioritise support for patients with less survivable cancers. Thank you, Ms Hobhouse, for chairing today, and thank you to the Minister for attending.
The question is that this House has considered the impact of NHS workforce levels on cancer patients. As many of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order, order. Oh, should I have to say the House is suspended?
Thank you very much. So I'll call Chris. I call Chris Curtis to move the motion.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Right, about 10 minutes.